What do you think?
What do I think about what?
Everything. Life.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's alright, isn't it?
Yeah, ups and downs.
Ups, downs, ins and outs, round and rounds. Don't check your phone. We're recording a very important podcast here, Ben.
It's a work.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Get your fucking priorities straight! That could just be the intro. Look at the spike where I talked. Ladies and gentlemen from around the world, it's my pleasure to introduce you to episode 3 of the GameSlagz podcast. It's been a while. We've had a few... Well, I say we've had a few problems. I've had a few problems. I'm basically a very bad editor. We tried twice to record episode 3 of the podcast. First time with a guest, Jordan Spencer, very nice guy. Definitely have him on in the future. Unfortunately, you'll not hear episode 3 because I lost my audio recording. And episode 3, the second attempt at episode 3, it's exactly the same thing. I just didn't record anything because I'm not very good at things. So I apologise for that. Next week it will be back to normal, and Dan will be back. But for the time being, I have a good friend of mine with me who's an avid gamer. His name is Mr. Benjamin Jordan. Ben!
Hello there, nice to meet you.
He doesn't sound that formal in real life. You might notice he's got a very deep voice because he's a brooding 6'3".
6'3", yeah. 6'3.5".
6'3.5". Geezer. Handsome bastard that he is. Yeah, let's just get straight into it. I've apologised. If you're not happy with that apology, you can go fuck yourself, basically. I'm only joking. Please stay. Don't ever leave us, ever. But yeah, let's just jump straight into what we've been playing. I'm going to go with you, Ben, first. What have you been playing?
I've been playing a few different things. I recently went back to Diablo 3 for a short while.
Oh, yeah.
I went straight into the hardcore mode on that. Managed to get to 70 on that, so relatively proud of myself for that. Other than that, really been playing Resident Evil Revelations 2.
Unlucky.
Well, it's actually a bit of a nice surprise, I thought. I actually got it as a free game, as part of a magazine subscription, so I can't really complain.
I didn't know that.
Worth a playthrough, yeah.
What magazine was that?
Just the official PlayStation one.
Oh, you sellout bastard.
Well, at the end of the day, you know, it's less than 30 quid, and
that's true.
6 magazines and that game, which can be traded in once I'm done with that. So.
Yeah, yeah.
But all the same, it's a good game. It's a lot like Evil Within and The Last of Us, but obviously a lot more... Well, shit compared to them, really, but in its own respect, as a small game, you know, on the disc, rather than having to buy all the episodes, that was definitely worth a playthrough.
Yeah, I know it's quite cheap, isn't it? It's about, I don't know, 25 quid for all the episodes.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever played a Resident Evil game before?
Other than the first one on the PlayStation 1 or a couple on there, not really.
No.
Nothing that I can particularly remember.
Yeah, you've got about the same amount of experience as I have when it comes to Resident Evil. Very little, but I've heard good things about Revelations 2. I think not enough to make me buy it, obviously, because I've always thought Resident Evil was a bit campy. Not in the traditional sense of the word, but you know, just a bit hammy.
Maybe a little bit, but it's definitely worth it if it's
free. Yeah, everything is, isn't it? If it's free. A blowjob from a pig is worth it if it's free. Maybe not.
It depends on who you are.
But you've also been playing Until Dawn.
First off, I gotta say, I am super excited to welcome all my pals back to the annual Blackwood Winter Getaway. Let's make this one trip we will never forget.
Oh yes, as of yesterday.
As of yesterday.
Yeah, and I must say I've nearly completed it. It's a different, unique experience.
Yeah.
And it's a good solid 8.5 out of 10. Good game, good solid game, but there are a few things that just let it down.
Yeah.
But you know, it is very chilling, and it builds up the suspense and the tension, and it definitely does make you jump once or twice and have me shouting out different obscenities. So,
how much control do you actually have over the characters?
Admittedly, it's relatively limited.
Yeah.
It's walking from one place to another. And finding a couple of collectibles in the meantime, and then it will cut to a cutscene with a few quick time events and having to press buttons and certain orders within certain time limits. You know, that usual kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In a lot of games these days. But all in all, it is quite good, and it is the story that you're playing it for, and the kind of horror side of things. I think really to put it, it is just a horror, a horror film in a game.
Yeah.
Just an interactive horror game.
How does it? What about the branching narratives? Does it genuinely feel like there is different ways you go? Because apparently there's a little symbol at the top of the thing, isn't that?
Yeah.
Shows you when you made a decision that could be
the
changed.
Butterfly effect. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
It's all on a big table in one of the menus, and you can see how your decisions have affected the story later on in the game.
Right.
And obviously it is still the first playthrough for me, so I'm not sure on how many different options there are until I've played it a bit more. But I can imagine there's a fair different amount. But once you've played through it 3 or 4 times, I can see it kind of you're seeing a lot of the same stuff with maybe one or two new things thrown in. So maybe in that respect it's not a everlasting kind of choices game, but it definitely will have the variety and opportunities for different endings and whatnot.
Yeah. It's sort of done really well. I think it's because it's like we've had games like the Telltale games before, which is sort of it's more story and narrative based gameplay, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Then there is actual mechanics involved because you actually. I mean, it's not a shooter, is it? It's nothing like that.
No. The only shooting in it is literally pointing your right stick at a specific target and pressing R2.
Right.
Within a time limit.
Yeah.
It's not shooting in a traditional sense, if you like.
Yeah. But how does it establish the tone? Because like we discussed earlier, like it's very sort of cliche horror movie. Does it ever get quite harrowing, or does it suffer because the tone is so sort of hammy?
I mean it's not too bad in that respect. I'd say there are parts in it where it has you gritting your teeth and perhaps gasping a little bit, but nothing to the extreme of what perhaps The Last of Us did to me with shock value.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was as good as that, but in its own respect it's quite good. There are a couple of very gory scenes that remind me of the Saw series in the films.
A lot of people have said that,
yeah. I mean, obviously a main point being in it, with no spoilers, is that there is a big saw blade involved, so at the end of the day it's very much like Saw in that respect, but it is good. How was its own?
Yeah.
However, I do have a few gripes with it, and that is, for instance, when you have control of the character, you can only ever walk. You can never run.
It's always a big problem, isn't it?
In certain parts, it feels like there's a lack of urgency, and that actually does kill it a little bit in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from that, really, it is a decent game. And another bad point perhaps is the voice acting and the scripting can be very off at times, like very off.
Yeah.
Very unconvincing and just downright poor. But there's a couple of big faces in there. Peter Stormare.
Oh really?
Yeah. He plays one of the main kind of guys in it, if you like. Very interesting. So in that respect, it's pretty cool to see his face, because I didn't realise he was in it either.
Right.
But then his face appeared. I was like, is that Peter Stormare? And it comes up at the start of his name, and sure enough, it is.
Yeah, I'm glad it's doing really well, because we need more of those types of games. Like not necessarily ones that everybody's going to enjoy, but ones that are different enough to separate themselves, from the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth a playthrough. It's worth, perhaps buying it for 40 quid and trading it in for 20, 25 or something like that. Worth a playthrough. But yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Anything else you want to talk about that you've been playing?
I can't think of anything else I've been playing. The only reason I've been playing Until Dawn is because my Metal Gear Solid hasn't come through. So I'm hopefully expecting that within the next day or two, which is soon going to put Until Dawn to one side.
Yeah. It's a good job that it's quite short and you nearly finished it then, really. Because I'm going to talk about fucking Metal Gear now.
This pain is ours. If we fail, we lose our chance of revenge. When the time comes, I'll pull the trigger.
And I'm going to talk about Metal Gear, do you understand me? I'm going to fucking talk about fucking Metal Gear for ages. No, I'm not really. I'm going to try and keep it as coherent as possible, because I've already done a video on this. But yeah, I think it's been a really, really strong year for video games, hasn't it? I think, compared to last year, which was poor. It wasn't poor. We had some gems, but it wasn't. It was more buckshot good games.
I think last year it was more just the PS4 had been out for a year, and obviously the Xbox One. Don't let me miss that one out.
Yeah.
I am biased though. So everyone They came out first year. There's never going to be a lot going around in the first year of a console's life. It's just building up. I was lucky enough to have not played The Last of Us before, so I mean that was one game that felt new to me. But other than that, it was a very slow start, wasn't it? And now it's really starting to come into its own.
Well, this is, 2014. A lot of the games this year were meant to come out in 2014, and in a way, 2015's are 2014's best games just pushed back. But yeah, anyway, back to my original point. We've had a lot of really good games this year, and some of them have been some of my favourite games ever. And Metal Gear has sort of come out and topped the lot, really. It's a brilliant game. It's really fucking good. It feels like we've hit the apex of stealth gameplay with Metal Gear. We've had a lot of games sort of not necessarily dedicated to stealth, but have stealth systems incorporated in them. Like I'm trying to think of a recent example. I can't think of any recent examples.
A lot of games these days have the stealth option in there.
Exactly, yeah. It feels more obligatory than it does an actual choice. Like The Last of Us, for instance, whilst that doesn't feel obligatory, it's very much a part of the game. Actually, no, that's a poor example. Dishonored kind of is an example where you could say, well, I want to go all out here because it's funner to go all out and more visceral to go all out.
That's how I feel about most games that involve stealth. So.
Yeah. I think that the best example to compare Metal Gear to is Deus Ex Human Revolution. And I know you haven't played it. I showed you Mankind Divided gameplay footage, which is similar, yeah. But Mankind Divided stealth was very much the strongest aspect of the mechanics and the gameplay. And going loud wasn't necessarily as fun. But Metal Gear feels like the best bits of Deus Ex Human Revolution built on. And it feels like the best example of a stealth game I've ever played, personally. It's just so... Because it's open world, it feels like the game... it's worth pointing out that I don't have much experience with Metal Gear. I've played a bit of the first one, about halfway through Guns of the Patriots, and most of Revengeance, and Revengeance can be discounted from that, really, because it's nothing like traditional Metal Gear games. But so I don't have the most experience, but it feels like, from what I've seen and from what I've played, that Metal Gear 5 is, like I say, the apex of all the games, and the apex of that stealth system that Kojima's been trying to build on for the last, 20-something years? And it's just brilliant. Like, everything about it is almost perfect. The gameplay obviously is brilliant, but the story is a bit hit and miss. Like I said in my video, like it suffers from that open world problem of it gives you these really cool story elements, and then because it gives you the choice to go off and do side ops and stuff, you forget completely about what's just happened. And because I'm not familiar with the lore in general, it pushes me away even further. It does do a good job of establishing itself reasonably well for anyone who's just played Ground Zeroes, because obviously this is a prequel to the first one, and I think it stands between Metal Gear 3 and the first Metal Gear, and 9 years after Ground Zeroes. Bit of a spoiler there, I apologise. I'll put a flag up in the video, but I think you know that anyway. It's not that much of a spoiler. But yeah, it's just brilliant. It's absolutely exceptional. I mean, I'm going to speak about a mission, and it's not a spoiler. It is a main story mission, but I'm not going to give you any details of it. There's a mission where you have to go to a power plant to save somebody.
Sounds vague.
Sounds vague, yeah. And it's a huge. One of the best things about it is because it's set in Afghanistan, you instantly think, oh, it's just going to be desert. But it does such a good job of putting out unique level designs at every turn. And this power station was massive. And I was looking at it from my viewpoint on a hill next to the power plant. I was like, how the hell? There's guards everywhere. How the hell am I going to get in there? Because the way I play it is, I totally stealth it. I sometimes use the sleeper darts if I have to, but I never pull out my gun unless I've been seen and I have to shoot my way out of a situation. The rest of the time it's just me trying to get past the guards to get to my objective. And in this particular power plant level, there was a number of ways I could have gone about doing it. And you can never argue with too much choice in a video game, especially an open world video game based around stealth. And it's just probably the best level I've played in a video game in ages, in terms of the way it's laid out and how the mechanics are sort of blended into that. It's brilliant. It's exceptional. I love it to bits. What's your opinion, Ben? You've played Metal Gear 1, haven't you?
I played the first one, and that, for its time, was simply one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
Some of the unique characteristics of that game were unbelievable, and not only the fact that smoking helped you in that game, which I don't think they'd ever get away with these days.
No.
An absolutely brilliant game, and I'm sure the one boss fight that anyone with the brain will remember is the Psycho Mantis fight where it changes the controller port, turns your TV to AV. That fight was, for me, one of the pinnacle moments in my gaming life, I must say.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear 5, as a result, has a lot to live up to, because I've never really had much interest in playing any of the ones before. They've never really appealed to me, and they've never really stood out as a game worth playing.
Yeah.
But with this one, it's one of the only games I've pre-ordered, and I'm very, very much looking forward to getting my hands on it. It's just a shame that the game's coming 3 or 4 days later than it should have.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, really, because the hype seems to have died down really quickly for it. It's probably the most anticipated game of 2015 in terms of, if you're a solid gamer and you've been gaming for a long time. The buzz for Metal Gear 5 was massive. And that's even coming from me, who, like I say, hasn't really been invested in Metal Gear before.
Yeah, would you say that's because it's perhaps not as great as the hype anticipated, or would you just say that it's because there's a lot more that's been hyped up at the moment as well?
I think you're right there. I don't think it's because the hype was sort of fell over when the game got released. I think because it did get pretty much solid 10s across the board.
Yeah.
And it is a really fucking good game. I think it's just because there's so much coming out. I mean, I'm looking at the October list now, and we've got, whilst they're not as sort of as up there as Metal Gear is, I mean, the releases for this month are massive, and the releases for next month and the month after are even bigger.
Well, the likes of Fallout 4 and Battlefront will do it alone, really, won't they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Even with them being a month or so away, but still, I mean, I don't think maybe saying that it's the hype has died down slightly is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, because I think because it's Metal Gear and because it's quite a niche title, even with it being as accessible as it probably ever has been now, it's only going to be popular with fans of the series. But there's a lot of Metal Gear fans, isn't there?
There is a lot of Metal Gear fans, and not all of them have played every game, and perhaps that's the beauty of it. But hopefully this one will be the pinnacle game and the one to remember. Yeah,
I think it definitely will be, because it is the most accessible out of the ones I've played, certainly, because it's open world, and because Steve Burns, I said this in my video, Steve Burns, a video gamer, said that it's the best Far Cry game that has ever and will ever be made, because it plays a lot like in Far Cry where you've got the outposts, and you've got to spot the enemies through the binoculars, and you can sort of go in from any angle you like. It's like that, but there's more to it. It's richer in detail. The AI is a lot better. The tools you've got in your arsenal are a lot more varied, so you can take it on in different ways. It's just fucking excellent. I love it to bits.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say the map size is compared to other open worlds? Would you say it's bigger, smaller?
It's not
average.
It's big. It's very big. I mean, there is 2 areas. Spoiler alert for people who literally don't want to know anything about it, but I believe there is 2 areas. There's Afghanistan and I think Africa or India, maybe both. I haven't got to the second area yet. I've had it hinted at that I'll be going there, but I haven't quite got there yet. But Afghanistan is big. It's quite barren, aside from the outposts and stuff, and the wild animals and stuff. It's certainly not as rich in NPCs as something like Far Cry, or indeed something like The Witcher, or any of those sort of traditional open world games are. But it has enough there, and because it has little in comparison to those games, it can do more with it.
Yeah.
When you reach an outpost, it always looks different. I mean, some of the smaller ones maybe not so much, but the bigger ones for the main missions always are nicely varied. What was your original question?
How big the map is.
How big the map is. I mean, to put a number on it, I'd say, I don't know really. I mean, for the mission last night where I had to get into the nuclear power station, I had to take the long way around, because basically you can get a helicopter to drop you off at certain points around the map closest to your objective, and I had to get dropped because it was such a key mission and I couldn't be seen. I had to get dropped off way outside the mission area, and I had to run with D-Dog, who's a fucking great little companion, little dog. You get fucking awesome.
Is that with you the whole time?
You're getting quite. I'd say, I don't know how far I am into it, but about 15 hours in, I got him.
Yeah.
Before then, I had a horse so I could ride around on, and that would have been easier actually for this mission, because the dog was essentially useless. The dog's good to have with you because it marks enemy positions on your map and animals and stuff. But it took me about half an hour, I'd say, to get from my drop-off point to the main mission area, and that's even before starting the mission. I was stopping off to liberate small outposts along the way, but you don't by no means have to do that. About half an hour, I'd say. But it was 2 hours of the best gaming I've ever had in a while, I think.
Well, that makes it worthwhile then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. But yeah, I'm going to shut up about Metal Gear now. Buy it, people. It's fucking brilliant, and it's it's sort of weird with how Konami has been sort of in the limelight recently of how shoddy essentially of a publisher they are, and how disgusting some of their business practices are. That they should come out. Well, it's not they didn't make the game; they just funded it and marketed it. But it's weird to think that this is probably their what's the word? Their swan song, really. Not really their swan song, but it's Kojima's swan song. But I'm talking nonsense, Ben. Slap me? Don't slap me, that'd hurt. But yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be the last good game that Konami ever really puts out. Because I mean, anybody who hasn't watched the Kojima, I can't remember what the video's called. It's basically where he says goodbye to the fans and stuff, and he goes around to this cancer patient's house who's recently died, and he was a big Metal Gear fan, and he gives signed copies of the game to the family and stuff. It's a lovely video, and it's really quite sad. And you would tear up a little bit, I think, if you were a big Kojima fan, because it is a shame that it is his last one. And well, who knows? It might not be his last one. There's a lot of people who speculate that he's going to stay at Konami regardless of everything that's happened, because I've had no real clarification as to what has actually happened between the two parties. But we'll see. But if it is his last game, I'll be very sad, because I'll be sad that it's taken me this long to sort of get on board with it, really. But I think he'll be around for a while regardless. It's just a question of who's going to pick him up, really, or whether he'll go on his own. But yeah, I think that's... I mean, I'm not going to bore anybody else with what I've been talking about, because I've played a lot since the last podcast. But Metal Gear is the most important thing. That's done. We want to talk about Super Smash Bros., don't we, Ben?
Super Smash Bros.
Like on the fly, we just thought, oh, why not talk about one of the best games ever made?
And it is one of the games that I think us and our close friendship group has spent thousands of hours on between us.
Yeah.
I'm talking, up to tens of thousands, actually, between the 5 or 6 of us.
Oh, that's it, yeah. Like, back in the day, when we used to... Well, when I used to partake of smoking of the bit of the herb variety, we all used to go to our friend's house and play a large excess of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Never really played much as Melee, but Brawl is fantastic, and ever since the release of the new one, which is just Super Smash Bros. Wii U, I think, it's just gone up from there, really. And we have literally put... I mean, there was times round at this friend's house where we would fall asleep to the music playing, and we would wake up in the morning and it would still be on. We'd be like, fancy a quick game?
Ready to pick the
controllers back up again. It was incredible, and it is... I do honestly believe that it's one of the best games ever made as a series.
It is the ultimate co-op couch kind of game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just playing it with your friends, you can lose hours to it. And it's just, I love the variety of it, I love the randomness of it, and all the different items, all the different characters. It is pure brilliance in that respect.
Yeah, and it's just... I mean, you can throw around talk of balance all you like. Obviously, there's characters that are better than others.
I think mostly with beat-em-ups, it's a lot how you play them as well, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, Sonic is shite as a character.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's someone out there that would still beat you every time with him.
That's true, with the 3 moves that he has, where he spins into a ball and knocks everybody off the screen. But no, it is... I mean, what's there to say about it that hasn't already been said? It is brilliant.
Yeah.
It is the best couch co-op game that has ever been made.
Whether there's 2, 3, 4, or even more of you, it's just perfect. You got the one-on-one duels, brilliant battles when it's just 2 of you.
Yeah.
The 3 just brings in the extra aspect of having an extra person without it being too hectic.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then with 4, that's really where its heart is. The chaos of the moves and all the lights and everything. It is.
It's exceptional, and it's such a good looking game as well, especially the new one. It looks amazing.
In its own regard, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't class it as anything towards The Witcher or, dare I say it, The Order.
We don't mention that game here, Ben. We never mention that game. It's in the same vein as Beyond Two Souls. We never ever mention those 2 games. Do you want to be crucified? Because I will put you up on that fucking stake if you mention that game again.
However, one of the best games ever made is Bound by Flame.
Don't bait me, Ben. Don't bait me. I will do this on a different occasion, a different podcast, but I will not rise to you right now, Ben, with that fucking shit kicker of a game. Let's get back to Super Smash Bros. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, late to the party. I know it's been out for over a year now, but it's brilliant.
It's always worth talking about, and it's always worth playing. It's one of those games that doesn't really get old.
No, it never loses its relevance because it's always brilliant, and it's sort of. I think it's the best brawler ever made.
I mean, for example, the GameCube game version of it, is that Melee, is it?
Melee, yeah.
Yeah, that's still 28 quid, like 28, 30 quid, you know, it's...
Most GameCube games are quite expensive, though.
Yeah, not to that point, it's definitely
no, that's true.
That's holding its value, very well.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the news.
Things what are happening in that.
But yeah, the news I'm not going to talk about everything that's happened the last 3 weeks, because that'd be stupid and we'd be here for ages. But I think the most prominent thing to happen this week is the news of Square Enix. Obviously, the release of Mankind Divided is imminent. Not imminent exactly, it comes out next year, but it's early next year. In March, I believe, or February. I should get an exact date. I should be more prepared, people, but I'm not, because that's the type of guy I am. I don't care about you. I don't care about this fucking podcast. I don't care about fucking any of it, Ben. But no, the Deus Ex Augment Your pre-order fiasco, I think is best to call it, is sort of... Well, first, Ben, what do you think about pre-orders, the pre-order culture surrounding gaming these days?
I've never really been a fan, to be honest. I did mention earlier.
Sensible.
I don't pre-order many games. It is only ever one or two, perhaps in a year, that I'm really looking forward to try and make sure I get it on release day. It doesn't always happen. But I'm not a massive fan. I mean, the promotions that they put on them to try and get people to buy them are very often weak and just, very much appearance based. I think you have to be, without trying to offend anyone, you have to be quite a cheap person to buy into that.
Exactly.
For them to secure the money, you're better off just waiting for it to be released, perhaps even waiting a couple of weeks just to get a bit of a better price on things. Yeah,
I totally agree there. Just in case anybody isn't familiar with the Augment Your Pre-Order thing, it's a 5-tier system on the website. If you pre-order the game, there's 5 tiers of unlocks based on how many people globally pre-order the game. The first tier, I haven't got any exact numbers for this because there's no exact numbers available. But the first tier, I think this is unlocked automatically when you pre-order. This is you basically get to vote for skins that you'll get for free when you pre-order, which is something you'd expect with a pre-order anyway, isn't it? Really, there's nothing out of the ordinary there. Second tier, this is where it starts to get a little bit fucking irritating. You either get a digital soundtrack or an art book. Why you don't get both, I've no fucking idea, Ben. It's this veil of choice they seem to have put in front of us. It's absolutely astonishing. I don't understand why you can't get both. But there we go. I guess you could let that go. Third tier, this is Piss Week, an in-game mission which you assume they've ripped straight from the game and made it only available. And of course, you know that within a week that mission will be available to buy for £5
and will last about half an hour.
Exactly, yeah, and will be the weakest mission in the game. Unbelievable. The fourth tier is a short story or comic book, both digital. Again, why we can't get both, who knows? Just rubbish.
Especially considering it's digital and they're having to make both.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And it would give them credence if they just give us both in the first place. But this is the kicker right here, people. This is the fucking nail in the... What's the word?
Nail in the coffin.
Nail in the coffin, that one there. It's the tier 5. If this is the final tier, if enough people pre-order the game, we get it 4 days early.
Way!
I love it when publishers withhold finished games from me for 4 days if a certain number of people don't pre-order. What a load of fucking nonsense that is. It really is. What's your take on it, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, not a massive fan of the pre-orders, and it's just something that will solidify that within myself. Like, don't pre-order these games from these people because it will encourage them to do things like this more and more and more.
Exactly, yeah.
When if people don't pre-order it, just buy it at release, that material, it'll still be in the game. It'll just already be in there. Or obviously it will be download content which you'll have to pay for.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, I mean, I pre-ordered Metal Gear Solid 5 purely because people were having problems getting it on day one. I could have just gone to the shop and bought it, but I'm a lazy cunt, Ben. I want it here now, and that's part of the problem. But I don't pre-order often. Like I say, this is the first time I've pre-ordered in a very long time. And what I usually do is I usually wait for... I have two favourite reviewers, and if they give the go-ahead that a game is good, I'll get it usually, and that's Jim Sterling and Stephen Burns from Video Gamer, because my opinions line up with their own. And if they like a game, I'm pretty sure going to like it as well. And that's the way I usually do stuff. Like, if their reviews come out after the game is released, or before the game is released, I'll go ahead and buy it day one. But if not, then no. And for them to come out and do this so early on, when the game is obviously so close to being finished, and it's obviously so close to being finished, they're willing to give the game away 4 days early, which is when you'd assume the original release date was going to be, is beyond scummy in my opinion. It's holding your own content to ransom on the paranoia that you're not going to make enough money, within the first week. It drives me mental. And like you say, the pre-order culture is quite poisonous these days, and I'm wondering whether it's sort of a last-ditch effort to sort of say, well, we've got to try and make this work. We've really got to try and make this work. Because Square Enix is one of the worst for pre-order stuff. But it could just be them opening the gates to say, this is how far we can push it. Let's see if we can get it for more and more and more and more. Let's see if we can sell half the game to people who've pre-ordered and withhold the rest. Oh, look at that spike there. But yeah, I think anybody with anybody with half of brain cell can understand that this is a very bad thing. Pre-ordering in general is a stupid thing to do, unless you've got absolute, founded evidence that the game is going to be brilliant and fully working day one. You've got no reason to pre-order. Just wait. There's even GTA 5 didn't fly off the shelves to the point where it was out of stock when it came out.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen anymore, does it?
No.
You can, if it's sold out in perhaps Tesco, then you can go to somewhere else. It's always going to be around somewhere.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And we're living in an age where Amazon do day of purchase deliveries. Yeah. There's no reason to pre-order anything anymore. Just wait. Just wait for review. If you want to pre-order something, wait until the reviews come out and say, this is the final build, this is what you're going to get. It's going to be a full working thing. Otherwise, it's just going to be an Assassin's Creed Unity thing. And people have the audacity to come out after the pre-order and say, oh, the game doesn't work, You fucking pre-ordered it. You should have waited for reviews to come up and tell you that this game is inherently broken and doesn't work.
I still got the game after the reviews and was highly disappointed.
Well, I got the game off you, so I didn't fucking lose anything. I just borrowed it, I think, because I knew it was a pile of wank. But I actually really enjoyed that game. So, but yeah, I think that's the general consensus here, is that pre-order culture is something that needs to die on its arse. Same as day one DLC stuff. It's just it's pointless and stupid.
Day one download content just there waiting, ready for the game.
And on disc DLC is even worse. But yeah, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to talk about releases for the up and coming week. I believe it's the first time we've done this feature on the podcast, because the last month or so has been so fucking dry in terms of big releases. I mean,
always is in the summer.
For no reason whatsoever. I mean, for fuck all reason really, because everybody has time off in the summer.
Well, I think part of it is just that people are generally out more. I know you yourself just like to stay in all the time, but
fucking dirty no life.
People do go out a lot more in summer, and
this is
spend
true.
a lot less money on games and more of it on. If anyone's got kids, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, if you got kids, you're not a gamer anymore, are you? Essentially, no offense there, but I mean, like you just haven't got time and stuff to do it.
You can be. You just might be not looking after your child properly.
Get the police round if you see someone playing too much of one particular game. But yeah, I mean, it's the 4th today on the time of recording this. Ben has led me to believe that could be entirely wrong, in which case, blame that lanky twat. But yeah, today we've actually got a couple of, not a couple of big titles really. I mean, one of my favourite games, not necessarily ever, but the year of its release, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, is getting remastered for what I believe is, let's just have a check, I believe it's for both systems. Yeah, Xbox One and PS4. 15 quid from the game website. Don't go to Game. Buy it from somewhere else.
If it's more expensive.
Yeah. Unless you've got stuff to trade in and it's games you really don't like.
But then you can always get a better price of trade-ins as well. So
Yeah. But Brothers, for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, have you played it, man?
No.
No. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is It's an adventure-style game in a similar vein to... what to put it? I don't really know. There are comparisons to be made, but basically you control two brothers, who incidentally are two sons. And each brother is mapped to each stick. So you control one brother with one stick and the other brother with the other, and you solve puzzles with those two. It's environmental puzzles, not like, it's not a puzzle game as such. It's more of an adventure game, but it's a really heartwarming, sort of fluttery, lovely little game. And the way the mechanics of the game, the lead mechanic, which is obviously the two twin stick things, what's the word for cohesions together towards the end of the game is amazing, really good. What else we got? Rugby World Cup, tweet of the day, lads. Yeah, it comes out on the 4th. Moving on. What else have we got? On the 11th, which is this time next week, we've got probably the most notable Nintendo release for quite a while, Super Mario Maker, and the embargo's up now, and the reviews are starting to go up, and it's generally being relieved quite well. Received. It's fuck me almighty. Generally being received quite well. There we go. I got it out in the end. That wasn't too difficult. But you can pick that up with the amiibo. It's a reasonable price, £46.99. Well, actually, no, it's not really. You can get the Wii U bundle. This is all from Game. Actually, no, let's not market stuff from Game. You can pick up the game from the 11th of November, basically, in the UK. I'm not sure whether that differs overseas. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have come out and said, well, it really is just a Mario map maker. And I'm like, well...
That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
It says it's Super Mario Maker. And every demo they've ever showed has just been them making maps and, giving them to other people to test out. And if you wanted a fully fleshed out Mario game, this isn't for you, really. I mean, I think it will live or die on its community, as these games often do. Like Little Big Planet and Project Spark, I suppose. And I think Little Big Planet has established itself well enough to have a consistent player base across the board.
Certainly not for everyone.
No, I don't think Ben is a big fan. But like you say, for people who like those sorts of games, these sorts of games are brilliant. It's just excellent. It's these sort of creation tools. I've got no interest really. I mean, I've got a Wii. I've got all the consoles, and my Wii U gets used reasonably often.
For Smash Brothers.
For Smash Brothers, yeah. It's because I've played all the games that have came out for it really now, and until another big Nintendo release comes out that isn't Mario Maker, I'm not really that interested. Not saying it's a bad system. It's one of my favourites of the three. I say one of my. It's not really any achievement, is it? There's only two that can be my favourites of the three. But yeah, I mean, it's it's a nice little thing, I suppose, if you like Mario to that extent, and you've always wanted to make your own maps and put them online for other people to test. It's cool. The 11th, probably the most notable release, really. Oddly enough, well, not oddly enough, the first one was a great game. Is Tearaway Unfolded. And you never had a Vita, did you, Ben?
No,
never had a Vita before.
Never really bothered with the portables.
Yeah, I mean, the original Tearaway was the best gimmick game I've ever played in terms of a handheld or a console, really. I mean, if you were to put them against the Wii or whatever, I mean, it it made everybody realise that the Vita wasn't just this sort of gimmicky piece of nonsense, really. Like it adapted the touchscreen and the back touchscreen and the camera really well and integrated them really well into mechanics and stuff, and it's a great little game. And Tearaway Unfolded, which comes out on the 11th of September in the UK, I don't know about overseas, like I say, has been received, like I say, reasonably well. I think Jim Sterling gave it a 7.5, and he had genuinely good things to say about it, and it's definitely something I'm going to pick up because I loved the first one. I thought it was brilliant. It's just a question of whether that gimmickiness can translate reasonably well to the gamepad, which I do genuinely think that the PS4 gamepad is better than the Xbox One gamepad. I mean, I prefer the button layout of the Xbox One, but I think, and of course the battery life, because the battery life on the DualShock 4 is pathetic.
About 3 or 4 hours.
It's ridiculous. I can't believe they let that pass. But I think in general, like the touchscreen, the touchpad stuff is cool. The fact that you can put any is it 1.75mm headphones, something like that, into the bottom, so you can essentially use any type of headphones. The little speaker, the light bar is pretty. I mean, I heard somewhere that it was meant to substitute the Move controllers, but I haven't seen any evidence to back that up yet. But yeah, like I said, I think generally the the PS Pad has got enough gimmickry going for it to make Tearaway Unfolded half decent. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on what your preference is, really.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And apart from that, on the 15th of September, we have Destiny: The Taken King. And if you are still playing Destiny, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Well, apparently it's gotten a lot better since both the expansions came out.
That might be the case, but you now have to spend up to about 90 to 100 quid on the game just to get essentially what is just a normal standard game, really.
Well, this is it. I mean, World of Warcraft can get away with it because it's so involved and because there's so much to do in it. Because everything. I mean, with the last expansion, I believe they put I've forgotten what the exact term is, but settlements in basically, so you can build your own base and stuff and get materials for that outside of that particular zone and in the world. But Destiny, aside from shooting stuff, doesn't really have that much going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it when I played it, don't get me wrong, but it's not something to play a year after it's released by any means.
Yeah, but I mean, it does have its fans. Like, people fucking love that game.
I suppose it's just because it's the same people that made Halo, and it's always going to have a massive fan base.
Well, that's
it's
it, yeah.
always a little bit similar to Halo.
Yeah, and it is the first of its kind as well. Like, Destiny is the first proper console MMO, sort of. It's the first step in that direction, really, I suppose.
Yeah, and God help MMOs if they're all going to be that small.
Well, hopefully, what's it called? Oh, fuck, what's it called? Ubisoft game, big fucking... see, everybody's forgotten about it.
Assassin's Creed?
No, oh god, people are screaming at the fucking screen now. Oh, come on, Ben. Big game.
You're not helping me?
Not Ghost Recon. The other one.
Tom Clancy's?
No. What's it called? The big MMO that Ubisoft are doing? Come on, Ben! They showed it off like 2 years ago. It's massive. The Division! There we go. Fucking hell. Hopefully the Division will sort of take certain aspects of what Destiny did right, and there are very few of those, but it did do some things really well, and implement them into a game which does a lot more feature-wise. I mean, I did enjoy Destiny, and I think the backlash against it is a bit of an overreaction, because I think it is, whilst it does get a lot of things wrong and it's essentially quite a boring game, I think it does a lot of things really well, and it has that sort of Bungie mark of quality that nobody else could really do.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a solid 7 out of 10 game when it was out. And
7 out of 10?
Yeah,
Jesus.
maybe.
I'd give it a fucking 6.
There's not that much difference.
in the gaming world, mate, there's a fucking world of difference between a 7 and an 8, or a 6 and a 7. But yeah, carry on, sorry.
Alright, we'll go for 6.5.
Okay.
But 40 hours plus in, that's it. You've played the game, and unless you're one of those heavy kind of PvP players and you like to get to level 999 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not that you can do that in Destiny.
No, I think, what is it, 26 was the cap, wasn't it, on the game first?
Originally, the light level.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably will pick it up at some later stage, like maybe in a summer drought in the future.
It's just always going to be a pricey option when you have to buy 3 different sets of expansions. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the first 2 are, like, House of Wolves and The Dark Below are not expansions, they're sort of DLC.
Yeah.
The Taken King is meant to be their
Still
first expansion.
20 quid DLC.
Yeah.
That's not cheap.
That is not cheap at all, no. But yeah, that sort of wraps up the releases. I mean, Destiny comes out on the 15th, so we strayed over a bit of a week there, but I think that's worth... I mean, unless you want to talk about NHL and Rugby League Live 3. I'm sure they're brilliant games. I mean, people love NHL, but I have no interest in it, and therefore it's irrelevant. So... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes this episode of the GameSlagz podcast. Thank you all very much for listening. It's been a pleasure to have you here, Ben.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
I'm only joking. You fucking cunt, it's been horrible. No, I'm joking, of course. Ben, I have a lot of friends who do play video games, but none of them to the same extent as Ben. Because I think to talk about games, you actually need to play a lot of them, and most of them, and have an opinion on the majority of them. It's good to have someone to turn to.
Oh yeah, so it's also good to get opinions off everyone, isn't it? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah, usual thanks. I'd like to thank very much Woe Mama for doing the intro song, of course, and we actually have a new jingle which was done by Dan, which is for the news. So blame him if you don't like it. And also Samuel Wigmore for doing the. Actually, no, we didn't do Old Dog Neil Tricks, which is fine. But thanks Samuel Wigmore anyway for the jingle that will be used inevitably in the future for Old Dog Null Tricks. But yeah, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, the gap won't be as long next time. Well, this time between this and the next podcast.
People probably appreciated the break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, us bleating on about games, which, to be honest, matters to nobody but gamers. I mean, essentially, you could remove games from the whole sphere of everything, and nothing would change.
Don't say that.
A lot
would change.
A lot more people would kill themselves.
A lot would change. Exactly. It is everyone's way of escaping. And,
This is it. Yeah.
so many more.
Ben there miming wanking off. But yeah, thanks very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back next week with a podcast. Probably be back to schedule, so it'll be next one will be up on Sunday, which is what we're on today. It'll be the 11th next week, so 11th, 12th, 13th of September, a day after my birthday. So be sure to send me free stuff. Anybody, all 3 listeners, be sure to send me anything you like. Really, free games, your mother's pantaloons, stuff like that. So thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace out.
Oh shit. Nope, don't turn off. That isn't got the end yet. There's the song to play us out. I'm recording this bit after Ben's left. So if you didn't like Ben, put it in the comments now that he's not here, because he's quite a big man. And if I'd have told him he was a cunt to his face, it'd have knocked me down. Only joking, Ben. I love you, really, you tall, lanky bastard. But yeah, to play us out this week, basically, we have a tune from Woe Mama. I'm plugging them again, basically, because they're a really good band. Not just because they did our intro, but because they genuinely are a really, really fucking good band. And I implore you all, please do check them out, because they're really, really good. So yeah, this tune to play us out this week is by Woe Mama, and it's called The Way You Do It. Take it away, lads!